Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the Rockhounding Life garage / rock shop. Today I thought I would just do a little quick video that goes over what you can do with a tile saw like this. So in our last video where the boys cut some rocks last week, I got a lot of comments and questions on, what can this saw do? Is this something I could use to cut rocks? And I thought I'd just make a quick little video and explain how we do it and what it's capable of. I'm not actually going to cut any rocks in this video. I'm just going to basically go over components of the saw, the details of the saw, what it can do, what rocks we cut on it. So we'll get into that right now. So this is a rigid 7-inch top cut wet tile saw. So this is what I use to cut all of our medium to small size rocks. Also, this is really good for cutting elongated sea maggots. And the sea maggot can be anywhere from, a very thin thing to 3 inches. And I'll explain why 3 inches here in a minute. So basically, you can pick any of these up at your local hardware store, like Home Depot. This is probably one of the more middle to bottom of the line saws. You can get 10-inch wheels. Like I said, this is a 7-inch wheel. You can get 10-inch wheels, but I just decided to go with this because the price was better, and for the size of rocks I have, it's easier to cut with this saw. Plus, I have a larger saw at work that I can use to cut my extremely large pieces, like this large sea maggot that we cut in a video. So that would be too big for this saw. Something that would be typical for this saw would be this porcelain sea maggot that we actually cut on this saw last week. So basically it comes with this guide tray, and you can adjust this, you can adjust the saw to fit in the groove of the guide tray. So your rocks can be flush and it will cut right through the rock. This particular blade I have on here is it's a blade rated for marble, granite, and porcelain. And you can see it's got a little bit of a serrated side. So all these are impregnated with diamonds. And the wheel itself, this part of the wheel here, it won't cut you if you touch that. However, if you touch the side, there is a chance you could get a good little nick on your finger, just because of how serrated it's not serrated, but it's meshed. So if any of those components, right now it doesn't feel like it would cut, but if any of these splintered or broke, then it would cut your hand. So if you ever have a blade like this, you gotta be careful. The size of a rock you can cut. So this is a 7-inch wheel. So here's the arbor. It's a 5/8 arbor, and that gives you basically a diameter of 3.5 inches. Now, you can't cut a rock straight through that's 3.5 inches, because you can see there's a disc wear plate here. This you don't want to hit with your rock. If you hit this with your rock, like so, sparks will fly, and it's not really good for the blade. It's not really good for your rock. So try to keep it on the main blade. This will cut probably a rock that's about 2 3/4 if you wanted to cut it all the way through. You can rotate the rock. You can rotate a bigger rock. So if I had a rock this size, I could cut it and then rotate it and cut it like this and probably get a cut. Now, it might be a messy cut. I might have to clean it up, but it can be done. I like this particular saw for cutting sea maggots, and I'll show you what type of sea maggots I have cut on this saw before. So here are 2 sea maggots that I've cut on this saw. I'll just wet them so you can see what they are. So this is you guys have probably seen this if you watch our videos. We find some of this material in the Bass River here in Nova Scotia, and this is a red flame sea maggot, a golden and red flame sea maggot. This is a red plume sea maggot. So I've cut both of these rocks. You can see they're pretty long, nice elongated rock, but I've cut both of these rocks on this saw. Essentially, it can go right through all the way and get cut with no problems. It'll go all the way through. So you could cut a rock probably, this is about 6 inches. I'd say you could probably cut a seam agate that's probably 10 inches, no issues. It'll essentially go all the way through. So you could technically you could cut a seam agate the length of this entire guide rail. So there's no limitation as long as your rock is not more than 3 inches. You'll be able to do this. You see how much tolerance I have to that wear plate there. So, and this one was cut as well on this saw. So you can see I was barely able to do it. So these are the types of rocks you can cut. If I ever had something bigger, I would use the saw that I use at work. Now you can cut slabs on this saw. There is a guide piece here that I can, and you can see there's measurements here, so I can move it 1/4 inch at a time. And this actually just fastens onto here. So if I wanted to take that same seam agate, I could place it here so that it's nice and flush and parallel on my guide rail. I can measure over from here. That's 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. So right now I have it like 3/4 inch. I would never cut that 3/4 inch, but I'm just saying if I wanted to, I can. And that's the cut I would do. So you can cut slabs. It's not going to be as accurate as a slab saw would be, but it's going to be pretty darn close. It doesn't come with a vise. I have seen people jerry-rig vices into this guide rail, so it can be done if you really wanted to turn it into a DIY project to gear up your saw and customize it the way you want. Like I said, this is a wet tile saw, so it has a pump here, and this pump delivers water from the water reservoir tray, delivers water up to the saw, and you know, you've seen the cutting videos where you see the water dripping out here. It's got this water flap here, so it prevents excess splash going out the back. Splash still does get out the back, but it's very minimal. So you can run this in your garage. I guess you could probably run it in your basement too, as long as you could, you might need to clean up a little bit afterwards at the head of the saw. But this is a great little tool if you're just starting out and you want to start cutting rocks. There's other types of saws. You don't even have to go this big. There's more bottom of the line type saws. You can even get a tabletop saw. I actually do have a tabletop saw. It's right here. This is a Ryobi tabletop saw. I just use this saw now for trimming pieces that I want to throw in the tumbler. It's a really good trimming saw. You can go this route. These are much cheaper, and they're really easy to use. You just fill up this bottom tray here with water in here, and you just turn the saw on. The blade gets lubricated, and away you go. One thing I will mention is that the bigger your rock is, the more water the blade needs. And that's because the more surface area that the blade is touching with the rock, the blade gets hotter. For example, when we cut this, the water delivery system here, this pump, would not deliver enough water to keep this cut going. It was getting too hot. So I had to have a hose, another hose. So I had Nolan putting another hose and watering the blade as I was cutting it. So you have to keep that in mind too. And you'll see when you're cutting it, you'll feel it and you'll see it. You'll see the rock starting to spark or glow. If that's happening, it's getting too hot. You're not getting enough water to the rock surface where the blade's meeting the rock. So you need to have another hose on standby where you just bring a garden hose over and you just spray the blade, and that'll cool the blade down. Cut much faster. If the blade's hot, cutting the rock, it just slows the cutting down, and it makes the saw work extra hard. And you could blow your saw. You could destroy your saw. You could blow a fuse in your house. I've blown fuses in my house using this saw because I've tried to cut really big rocks on it, and I just wasn't getting enough water to the saw, and it was just working too hard, and just surged through the breaker, and it fried my fuse. That actually happened on a video, I think. One of the cutting rocks videos we did with Travis. It was me and Travis doing it. So you gotta be careful when you're selecting the rocks you're cutting. You want to make sure that it's a practical thing to do on the saw you have. So that's it, and I hope this was a little informative and answered some of your questions. If anybody has any more questions on this, feel free to ask me. One other thing I do as well, I have this grinding stone that I use to to clean the surface of the blade to expose more diamonds. If I run this, you know, I'll just run this, I'll let this cut for like, you know, maybe 10-20 seconds, just to kind of get the diamonds exposed on the wheel before I do any cuts. I've seen people use brick as well. They say brick does it, but I actually have a grinding wheel, so I actually use the grinding wheel. So that's it. And again, I hope you guys found something useful out of this video. And you know, if you have any comments or questions, just leave them in the comment section of this video and we can have a discussion. So that's the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll have another video coming out at our regularly scheduled slot on Thursdays. This Thursday's video is going to be a pretty cool video. I'm not going to say much more about it. I'll put a couple of teasers out on the community tab. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, hope you enjoy your week. Take care.